Good morning. Welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at pitching for today, the 7th of September. It is Saturday. We have a 5-game early slate and an 8-game main slate ahead of us. Sounds like some potential weather in a couple places, Boston being one. Early look update that I saw this morning was that neither should be a PPD risk, but there is possibility for some delays. Obviously, we have a few hours to go, so you want to pay attention to that. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you're on FanDuel, I would cut my pool into a half or even a third. So let's just jump into the pitching options here on this 5-game early slate. We get Aaron Nola against the Marlins. Not as strong pitching at home, but it is the Marlins as an opponent. He lost to them earlier this year, but put up a pretty strong performance. I assume he's just a massive favorite. Minus 245. Definitely the largest on this slate. K-prop sitting at 5.5 with juice on the over as well. Should be extremely popular on this particular slate. Yusei Kikuchi struggled with Arizona when he faced them the first time. Has been pretty impressive with the Astros. He has multiple double-digit strikeout performances with Houston. It is not the easiest of matchups, obviously. K-prop of 6.5 with juice very strongly on the under. But he is a minus 162 home favorite here. I think we're looking to use him, but I will obviously be interested in Arizona as well with how dangerous their offense is. Zach Eflin definitely interests me taking on his former squad. Absolutely shut them down the first time. He's thrown the ball extremely well. Just returned from the IL and threw a gem. 28 plus fantasy points in each of his last 3 starts with Baltimore. And as you know, I've been picking on Tampa Bay with pitching for quite a while now. He's a minus 185 favorite with a K-prop of 5.5. So I think Eflin is a strong option on this slate. Definitely stronger than Kikuchi at this point. Ryan Pepiot, somebody that I've used. He does have K upside. Baltimore can struggle sometimes at the plate. I just don't know that I'm going to go there in this spot. I know it is a small slate. His K-prop's 4.5 with juice on the over, but I'm just not sure I'm going to get there. One thing that is intriguing, the fact that we have a game total of 7.5 with juice on the under. Pepiot certainly has the ability to put up 25 to 30 fantasy points. Just a matter of, do I think he can get there against Baltimore on the road today? He has, from a fantasy standpoint, has been at his best on the road. But still, maybe. Obviously, he wasn't overly sharp in his first performance against Baltimore, but did rack up strikeouts. If he's able to keep the ball in the ballpark, maybe there is a route to being in the GPP winning lineup. Not really interested in much down here, to be honest. Brant Herter, not somebody I've dug into much, but he's actually been decent. The issue is, he just hasn't shown big time upside. He's kind of stuck at about 80 pitches. So he's kind of capped. I don't know if he can get us 25 to 30. Not that maybe we need that on a 5-game slate. If this was a larger main slate, then for sure. He is somebody that intrigues me a little bit just because Oakland can strike out quite a bit. But obviously, we know how dangerous Oakland is from a power standpoint. So maybe just not in play. Jose Quintana, I think he's got some upside against Cincinnati. but he's super volatile in this spot for me. Um, he's a minus 162 favorite. K prop of 4.5 with juice on the under. Um, maybe some potential weather in New York, according to DK here, but that's something we'd have to dig into. Um, Quintana or Herder might make the pool, but it's definitely the three here at the top, with Nola Eflin being, the obvious pairing. Let's jump into the main slate here. We get Dylan Cease taking on San Francisco. He's made two starts against them. Been pretty strong overall. 13 strikeouts in those two starts. He's been at his best from a fantasy standpoint when pitching at home. K numbers are far superior when pitching at home. He has been giving up some runs. Walks have been there. Ks have come down. Um, but it's hard to ignore what the upside is. So I think we need to play him just based purely on what his upside is. His K prop 7.5 with juice on the over, which goes against his recent trends. Minus 148 favorite. I think it's a good game to look at for pitching. Logan Webb on the road isn't as strong, but he's been pretty solid against San Diego this season. Just not a big K guy, and San Diego doesn't strike out a whole lot. So maybe we just don't end up with any Logan Webb. Uh, but my first look here at this pitching pool, we're gonna have to include some guys that we don't feel overly confident in, by the looks of things. Logan Gilbert has definitely struggled more on the road, but um, he's still. I mean, even last time out on the road, along 4 runs in 6 innings, still went over 20 fantasy points. There's definitely upside with him. He's a minus 125 road favorite. Game total of just 7 in that one. K prop of 5.5, juice on the over. I think he's just kind of the de facto SP2 in ranking wise, um, behind Cease. But there's obviously a little volatility here at the top. Spencer Schwellenbach pitching at home, where he has had a home run issue, but his strikeouts are better when at home. He's coming off of a so-so performance, but prior to that had been rolling pretty well. Um, I haven't looked into how Toronto's been performing strikeout wise of late. I know the half of the year they weren't a huge strikeout team, but I think there's enough upside with Schwellenbach. His K prop's just 5.5 with juice on the under, but he is a minus 166 favorite in this spot. Already talked about Logan Webb. Certainly an option. I'm just not overly excited to get there. Bailey Ober has struggled against Kansas City. I believe 6 runs in one start, and then 9 runs in the other. It's really not a good combination, to be honest. Um, but he's shown such strong upside, even in tough spots. Like we talked about Cleveland and not being a big strikeout team. He went for 33 fantasy points in that one. Obviously, the ones around it, pretty big performances, but against weaker teams. I think we look at Bailey Ober. He is a minus 135 favorite in this one. K prop just 4.5. Juices on the over, but Kansas City, much like San Diego, not a big K opponent. And I think that's kind of the case with St. Louis as well here. So we have some teams that just don't strike out a ton, but they're facing some of the better pitchers on the slate. And I think some of the teams that do strike out a little bit more uh, are facing some pitchers that we're not overly excited to jam in. Uh, so it's going to be an interesting slate. Robleski has not looked great at the major league level. I'm just not going to go there. He'll probably go out and throw his best performance to date, but that's something that we can live with passing on. Jose Barrios, definitely not the same kind of guy on the road as he is at home. Been pretty solid, 24 plus fantasy points in 5 straight and 6 out of his last 7. In my mind, I think Atlanta's more dangerous than they are right now. His K prop's just 4.5 with juice on the over. I think Berrios is somebody we want to use because he does have the upside. It's just we're gonna want to have some builds with him Atlanta bats in him. Um, Pick up some of the home runs that potentially happen. Tyler Anderson, did pretty strong against Texas the first time he faced them. He's been at his best when on the road. Those are some elite level numbers when pitching on the road. Not a huge K guy. Um, Obviously, you can see it's just 8 strikeouts and 9 walks over his last 3 starts. The recent trends are not exciting for Tyler Anderson, that's for sure. With that being said, on this slate, I think he's in play. He's a slight dog, um, but with Texas being without Seager, and I believe some of the other main guy like Semien had been struggling the last I kind of looked into it. So maybe we do have to include Tyler Anderson in our pool. Garrett Crochet, it would be nice if we knew that he was going to throw 75 pitches, but it really looks like he's going to be 50 to 60. And with that being the case, we can't utilize him, I don't believe. Tobias Myers, great matchup. Was I'm going to assume this game was in Coors. Wasn't overly strong, but um, from a fantasy point perspective, he's best at home where he's at this evening. I think he's going to be a fairly popular SP2 on this slate. K prop of 6.5 juices on the under, but he is a minus 290 favorite. So one of the guys you can kind of pay down for and get 25 to 30 fantasy point upside on this slate. Kyle Gibson pitching at home does not allowing home runs at home, but overall his numbers at home have not been as strong. I'm interested just because it's Seattle and they strike out plenty, and he's a very small home underdog in a game total of 7. So I think there's upside. His K prop's 5.5 juices on the under, but I'm intrigued enough with Kyle Gibson on this slate that I think we want to get some exposure. Alec Marsh, no thank you. Gavin Williams would be nice if it wasn't against the Dodgers. Jack Leiter, probably not. His best major league start came 2 starts ago against the White Sox, and even then wasn't overly strong. Um, the Angels obviously are not a super dangerous squad, but he just hasn't shown it at this point. Cooper Criswell did cross my mind a little bit here, coming off of a great performance against Detroit, but he got pulled at 52 pitches, which didn't make sense to me considering he was up in the 80s or around 80 before that. He now gets the best matchup on the board. So do we sprinkle him in? I think we do, to be honest. We should, I would guess, expect him to be able to get back to the 80 pitch mark. Um, and in just 52 pitches in the last one, he picked up 19 fantasy points. That would tell me that he does have upside to 25 plus if he's given the leash to do it. Um, it's just a matter of can we trust that to happen? I'm not necessarily sure, but the matchup says that we should give it a shot. So, but there we have it. There's the first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. And if you want to join us and get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I'll put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's RAZ, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.